Hello and welcome to the Southbound Sports Show. I'm your host, Richie Leahy, here with my co-host, Matty B, the head ball coach. Speaking of head ball coaches, the real head ball coach, Steve Spurrier, my man. He's making a comeback. I knew he couldn't stay away for too long.
Horrid.
Why is that horrid?
Because he needs to just go play golf out in Arizona and just be done with it.
Matt,
There's a reason that he's failed everywhere he's been since leaving Florida.
He did well at South Carolina. You can't even say that's a failure. They never
You can absolutely say that was a failure.
Dude, they never won double-digit games until he was there, I think. Maybe Lou Holtz one time. But he had like three 10-win seasons in a row.
And then he came in and just golfed the whole time.
No, that one year when they had Lattimore and Clowney, they were in the SEC championship game, weren't they?
Yeah, they probably were because they did play Michigan, so they had to have been an SEC contender that year.
Well, yeah, you know how we get those top bowl games. It sound a little bit jealous there. But the man, he's coming back in what I think is the dumbest name for a league, the Alliance of American Football. We talked about, I think we mentioned this, but we talked heavily about the XFL. The XFL was something that we watched religiously back in the day because there's not a lot of stuff on. TV is mostly garbage. So whenever you have an actual competitive league, I was happy to see it come back. And now CBS has kind of bankrolled this. I'm pretty sure the NFL owners were kind of scared that the XFL was coming back in this day and age where everything's dropping, TV ratings are falling, and they didn't want a competitor. So it looks like they kind of, I don't know if they bankrolled their own, but it has the NFL guys. We did definitely talk about this because we mentioned Hines Ward and a couple Steelers, Polamalu, I think, are faces for the league. But
yes.
But that's what we're looking at here, and it's going to be an interesting league. And Matt, you said about him not being successful. I think this is perfect for him because he's going to get the athletes and the quarterbacks that are successful running the spread concepts in college finally at a pro level. When he was with the Redskins, I mean,
awful.
What quarterbacks did he have?
He had his whole 1997 Florida team.
Yeah,
he just
Rex
traded
Grossman.
away and signed. He signed
can't win.
all of those guys. Yes, you can. Rex Grossman went to a Super Bowl with the Chicago Bears.
He lost it, and he was the reason why they lost. They faced a Peyton Manning team that only scored like 18 points or something. I think that was a weird score, but it was something like that. So don't knock my man. He's going to come back, and he's going to be successful, and we're going to see him get one more championship under his belt, beside those Florida Gator ones that he has hanging.
And on the heels of that, did you see the South Carolina spring game where they tried to throw him a pass and then he just like fell down and dropped it and everything else? Like he goes from that and then it's like, by the way, we are going to bring him back as the head coach of this new random.
Oh wait, I don't think I merged you. I tried to add Rick in, which probably messed up the whole show here. I guess I shouldn't just do things on the fly. But let's go back and see.
Yes.
Hey, I think I messed this whole up. I tried to add Rick in, but I think it just added him to his own call, so let me try again. So, I lost you a little bit of a rant there. That was my bad. Of course, I have to mess up the show. But, Rick, you on? All right, yeah, this is totally dead air. Matt, you can continue, and if he's on in a sec, I'll add his video up. But you were talking about the spring game. Was that this year?
Yes, it was South Carolina. It was awful. He was all by himself, like trying to incorporate like some of the alumni, and they threw like a deep pass to him, and he just like fell down and dropped it. It was horrid.
No, I definitely did not see that. We do have spring football games on the docket, so we'll be talking about that, but I'm definitely going to have to check that one out. I was traveling this weekend, so I didn't get to watch any of the recent ones yet, but it's going to be a topic that we're going to hit on. Matt, what do you have for high tempo this week?
I saw, and this is random for me, but saw the soccer clip of the I'm gonna butcher the name because I don't follow soccer at all. But Cristiano had another bicycle kick
Ronaldo.
that was absolutely out of his mind with back-to-back weeks of bicycle kicks that definitely scored goals, and I thought was pretty impressive. So just as an overall athletic slash other sports, and it was pretty cool to see that it wasn't just a one-time fluke. He's just out like being the best in the world, knocking out bicycle kicks. I had sent you the link for earlier in the week.
Yeah, definitely. I'll share that. I'm a big fan of his. A lot of people call him Pretty Boy, but I don't know. You really can't. You can't knock it. I think they won. What was it? The Europeans. So what they do across Europe is each country has their own sports league, and this is for Americans that don't really follow soccer. But I think each country has their own league. Like Ireland has a league. The England has like the Premier League. What's the one? Spain has like their own, the one that Ronaldo's in. And then at the end, like every so often, it might be each year, but the top team from those countries then play in their own tournament. So like it would be like if our Major League Baseball teams would play a tournament against like the World Series winner from Cuba, from Japan, things like that. So they did that, and I'm pretty sure Ronaldo has led his team to a couple of championships. I think he gets knocked because of the World Cup stuff, and I don't think that they've won it with him. I could be off a little bit there, but I'm pretty sure that he hasn't won a World Cup, and that's why people hate on him. I mean, but you're fighting against the whole world. So the fact that he's able to win his own professional league, like his equivalent of his World Series, his Super Bowl, he's won that. And he's won the one for entire Europe, which is kind of like the Olympic style, the next level of that. So I got to give the man props. I'm a big fan of his. Anything else you want to add on that, Matt?
I mean, for as much publicity as some of these dunks get for basketball, where I don't think it's as impressive, because when you look at some of that, it's like you have a 9-foot guy dunking on a little Tykes basketball hoop, and I'm not impressed unless they were dunking on a really big hoop. But when you look at those goals that he's scoring, they're not like little chip shots or layups. Like he's knocking it into the goal from a good distance out. So I think that's pretty cool and definitely highlight tape worthy.
Yeah, definitely. And we're going to go ahead. I'm going to try to get Rick on one more time as we get into the baseball stuff. He was actually on a trip. Let's see if this adds him.
Hey, there he is.
Am I here?
Dude,
Okay.
What's up, Rick? I messed that up. I messed it up. My bad.
Been 6 weeks I haven't been here. It's like 5 or 6 weeks, I think, in a row.
Really?
Well, go ahead. Keep going. We'll make it 7.
Well, I might as well. If I lose connection again, I guess that's what happens when you're doing it from your basement.
Well, I think what happened was it tried to add in and it didn't add you. It actually just had a separate. So I'm gonna work on getting you up. Do you have anything for high tempo, Rick?
I have a couple minor notes and everything, so nothing like one specific, but the Dodgers got the All-Star game for 2020. Not surprised it being being so many years, being the weird year of 2020, the Dodgers being that and capitalizing on that. Sister Jean threw out the first pitch at the Cubs game. She probably left early. That's why the Cubs lost today. So congrats to having Sister Jean. Sister Jean leaves early equals just go home. You're going to lose. So I think that's the other thing. And hockey playoffs start tomorrow, which are going to be amazing. I can't wait for that. That being the baseball guy, hockey playoffs are a different breed of sport, which I think the only sports that can compare is the NCAA basketball tournaments, different basketball than the regular season. Hockey playoffs is different. Those two are the only two that come to my mind. So, but I'm very intrigued. I like some of the matchups. I know we're going to talk probably about Penguins versus Flyers, but I mean, two good teams right there off the bat.
Yeah, definitely. That's our main topic for this week. We're going to go ahead and get into the Steel City update, which is going to lead us into that talk. We'll start off with, we'll talk a little bit of baseball. I know you were away at spring training, Rick. First things first, Pirates. They stayed hot. I think with last week's show I said, don't worry, they have to play the Cubs and the Cardinals soon. They have to play the contenders. You can't just beat up on the Tigers and call it a season. Well, one of those games against the Cubs was it snowed out? I think it was snowed out. Crazy,
it was snowed out yesterday.
Crazy weather we've been having. Pirates right now are 8-2. They're in first place. So I can knock them all I want. But right now they're winning 4-0 on the road, which is tough to do in baseball, especially whenever you're coming from Pittsburgh. They had to travel down south to do the spring training stuff. But Rick, go ahead and give us a little overview on spring training. I know I played your video and I shared some of them, but just give us a recap. What'd you see? What'd you like? Things like that. I've never been there.
It's a little bit different for anybody who's never been there. We used to go to Florida, me and my dad. Rains too much. Don't recommend ever going to Florida. We decided to start going to Arizona about 8 or 9 years ago. I've been going every year since then. Doesn't rain in Arizona, very desert-like. We've only been rained out once, but that was also the day I got to meet Bob Feller the year before he passed. So I don't know if you put those pictures up, Rich, of my Indians trip, but I put a lot of Bob Feller pictures because of what he was and what a man he was too. But I mean, the thing about Arizona is you get to see a lot of side games. We got to see major league games. In the triple and double A games, you're lucky if 40 people show up for one of these games. And usually it's two types of people, family and friends, or people who want to meet the players. It's really just those types of people. People want a picture, people want an autograph, or, hey, that's my dad, that's my brother on the mound or something like that. So, but I really like what the White Sox are doing. I like them. I think they have good hitters. I think they have a lot more prospects coming up. Don't like Texas. I remember I sent you guys a tweet. Everybody was talking about Bartolo Colon. I'm like, he just got launched, by 2 home run balls. I still don't think he's good. I think his career's over. I don't care that he had a good first outing. He's not that good. When I saw him pitch, it looked like home run derby pitching. Looked bad. Don't like the Royals at all. Don't think they have good team chemistry. Don't like anything really about them. I know I just saw them beat the Indians, but I just don't like that team. They can't hit. And that's the problem right now with the Indians. They're not hitting. They're not winning because they can't hit the ball. So I think that's the thing I would say is I saw a lot of different hitting. I still go with my early observation. Don't like the Reds at all this year. And I still think that Brian Price will be fired. He wasn't even showing up to batting practice. A manager not showing up to batting practice doesn't make any sense. So, Lou Piniella showed up to Reds batting practice, who was their coach in 1990 when they went to the World Series and won it. But yet the manager, your current manager, is not showing up. So, I don't know. I didn't get to see the Dodgers out there. Their tickets went insane. Didn't get to see the Cubs either because their ticket prices went insane. Got to see the Dodgers double and triple A. They don't have much. So if they're going to try to make a run, they don't have a lot of prospects to deal. So don't believe if they're going to have to do it, they're going to have to do it a lot internally. And they're dealing with injuries right now of Bellinger's kind of banged up. Grandel's a little banged up. So, I mean, they got some injuries. And Diamondbacks are winning too, but they're missing Souza and Jake Lamb right now. So, I mean, that's the other thing I would say with this Major League season. A lot of guys got hurt late in spring training or early season already. So, I think injuries are going to play a huge part at the end of the season. So, and that's why the Pirates are winning. Everybody's healthy. So, I mean, it's not hard to see why they're winning. And they're playing bad teams. Detroit's awful. Ron Gardenhire looked awful as a manager. They exposed him as a bad manager.
Well, they went ahead and got rid of everyone anyway. They're in the middle of a rebuild. But
yeah, and they're stuck with some bad contracts. Victor Martinez, Cabrera aren't worth the money they're getting paid right now. So
Rick, what would you say? How many games do you think you'd have to win to make the playoffs? 90 or so?
Yeah, I would say 90 to 92 you would have to win.
So Pirates are only 82 away. We should do a countdown.
But here's the thing. They haven't played the Brewers yet once. They haven't played the Cardinals yet. They really haven't played anybody from the AL or NL East or NL West yet. So, I mean, they're beating up on teams they should beat up on.
Well, the NL West or the NL East is awful. The Braves.
Nationals are still there. I
That's
still
one
like
team,
Nationals.
though. The Mets.
True. Mets can't
Philly
hit.
was even worse, especially
Just
on,
wait till
on payroll.
Tebow comes up.
Yeah.
Tebow.
I hate to say
I'm jealous that the Pirates minor league team, Altoona Curve, is going to get a chance to play Tebow, it looks like, and I won't be there to see it. I probably won't be able to make it up. I was trying to look at my schedule and see when can I go to meet the man, the myth, the legend, Tim Tebow. So, Rick, if you go there, I definitely want you to get a selfie with him.
Yeah, I think the team they actually get to play first in Pennsylvania, I think if I looked right, it's Harrisburg they'll come in. I think they do a Harrisburg and Reading trip, go back, and then like a week or two later to come back to Altoona. But Tim Tebow can't hit for average. You got to hit for average in Double-A.
No.
If you want to get out of Double-A baseball, you got to hit 270, 280, 290, 300. But if you're hitting 260, you got to have good power numbers.
Hit for power, because I know it's getting baseball heavy. We haven't really had this much excitement for how long. But Matt, your man, Mark McGwire, he came out and said he didn't need steroids to hit 70 home runs. He was just taking them, because he didn't need it. What do you think?
Yeah, Big Mac land. he had just a little extra.
I don't know. I wish I could go to the tape just to see how many of his home runs were close. Because if he didn't have the extra strength, would there have been some that might have been robbed or almost robbed? Or were they all moonshots that most likely, if he didn't take steroids, would they still have been home runs out of that 70? Because you could take away, let's say, any that's within 5 or 10 feet of the fence, just subtract them from his total, and you can get a count of how many home runs he would have hit if he didn't take steroids. But I don't know if anyone has a compilation film. I'll see if I can find one. YouTube used to have stuff like that, but Major League Baseball kind of tried to corral that all into their network, and their highlights aren't very fan friendly. It's here's a 10-second highlight with a 30-second commercial in front of it. So if I can find them, go ahead.
But I'll say this: as far as Major League Baseball is concerned, they really do a bang-up job of trying to isolate casual fans. I can remember when I lived down in North Carolina trying to pick up St. Louis games and trying to find radio stations, not watching for the actual video stream, but just trying to pick up a radio station where you could have them played, so you could at least listen to the games, and they were all locked down. So unless you were actually in that area or paying for it, you weren't getting access to any of that material. And I thought, well, that's it for someone like me who's not – I don't follow baseball that closely. I may tune in for a game here or there, but I'm not going to pay for any kind of package when if there's other stuff going on, I'll tune in, tune out for baseball games. But, for something that might attract me in a little bit more, I think Major League Baseball is hurting themselves by isolating those and trying to sell the packages for those games.
I totally agree. And being in North Carolina now, I can tell you right now, they don't have a team here. So if you look at the map, we don't get coverage for anyone. So if I get the Fox Sports Carolinas, I get the Hurricanes, I always call them the Bobcats, but the Hornets now, and the Panthers. There's no baseball team. If I try to pay, let's say, because you said the pay route, if I try to pay for MLB TV, I think both the Nationals and the Orioles are blocked out, and a good bit of the other teams that are close, Pirates, Braves, and I think would it be Tampa? It's a weird map. They don't want anyone from the South to watch any game. If you want to follow your team, it's not going to be on regular TV anyway. They really screw you here. So I'm kind of surprised that I see as many baseball fans around here as I do. Because it's very tough to watch a game. You almost have to be a fan of a team that's not within a day's drive. You could probably watch all the Tigers games, maybe if you go further west, I would say even the Cubs or whatever. And that might be why there are a bunch of fans from other teams. Because the ones that are in this immediate area, a day's drive to Atlanta, Baltimore, Washington, D.C., they're all blocked out. So whatever they want to do, it's going to be crazy. And actually, I'll add this in. I know, Matt, you've been high on the Sixers, but I saw with NBA, they're thinking of doing sort of like a pay-per-view where if you don't pay for the whole package, you can pay per game. And I think this is something that me and you discussed might have been even predate the show, where I said eventually what's going to happen, you're not going to have these networks. It's going to kind of be like a Netflix for sports where you buy yourself a virtual ticket. And that's what the NBA is going to do. So like I look through tonight and I'm like, okay, I want to sit down and watch this game. $5, I can watch at home. They're not going to sell you the whole package. If it's a high, let's say worst case scenario, if this goes to the NFL and it's a Steelers-Patriots matchup week 15, like with playoff implications like last year, that game on TV, they could then jack the price up like a Pacquiao Mayweather pay-per-view. They could raise a ticket from $10 to $100 if you're sitting at home and really screw the fans. So the NBA is trying this out. They're actually going to start where if you want to watch a fourth quarter of a game, let's say just a casual game on the NBA TV or whatever, I'm pretty sure it's going to be 99 cents to start or something crazy like that, where if you're going through, you click, would you like to watch this? Yeah, and it will charge your account. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a charge every time, if you need to have a prepaid card. I don't know how their network works, but I think it's a brilliant idea. You're bored, you're flipping through, and you see, okay, a close game's on. I normally don't have it. I'll watch it. I know for hockey coming up to these last couple games, I definitely would have paid for a couple of them. There were a couple close games here closing in, and we'll get on those whenever we get to the hockey stuff, but it's definitely something that's interesting, and I think it's going to be like that down the line. Because people will say, well, we're not going to pay $60 to drive a ticket to drive my family to the game. Who would pay $60 at home to watch a game? I don't know. Would they make up the money? Possibly. What are your thoughts on that, guys?
Rich, you hit the nail on the head because this is my other point of spring training with my other negative. It cost me $22 for a lawn seat at a stadium. I'm like, $22? I said, heck, I could go to an actual real game for a whole entire series. And, at the Pirates, Cincinnati, Orioles. And I don't have to pay. I'm paying $22 for one seat. I said, heck, I could get away with not even paying that on just paying the actual price at sometimes, because you can get like a weekday game at like $8 at some of these stadiums. So I think that's the problem is you're in spring training tickets have fallen in Arizona or risen. The prices have risen, but the number of people have dropped. It's dropped for the past 4 years because a lawn seat at every stadium used to be $10. Now it's in 15, 22 being the highest. I was paying like $10. It was like insane. I'm like, it's just crazy. And I think that's the problem. You're outpricing your market, so your fans are going to decide, heck, it's not worth the drive. Gas prices are up in some states. Most of them are. And then you got to pay to park. Pay to parking is insane nowadays at some stadiums. Me and Mrs. Rick went to the Indians game. It was $40 to park for opening day. Next day was $20. $40 to park a car?
Parking is the worst.
You might as well go park at a Walmart and get an Uber.
Parking is the worst, and it's paid by the taxpayers, which is outrageous. Taxpayers pay for these stadiums, and who gets the money? Extra money to city officials? Does it go? I know some of them split with the stadium, and it's crazy. You should not have to pay. If you're a taxpayer and we're paying for the stadium, parking should be free. And that's just across the board. It goes for concerts and everything, because I used to go to a lot of rock concerts, and eventually it just got too tiresome. Till I get there, I have to pay outrageous. You can't get food or drinks there because it's $10 plus. And then you're sitting there miserable. I could just crank the CD up while I play some video games or something at home. Watch a sports game. Listen to an album. Pretty much same exact thing. You can even watch the live show on YouTube for a lot of bands. Like I know Metallica throws a ton of their concerts up. And I think that's just the way it's going. I look at it this way. If I crunch the numbers, Rick, let's say Major League Baseball TV or whatever, you can watch all the games. You get 162 games or whatever. I think it's $120 a year. But a lot of people don't have time to sit there. They're like, okay, if I pay this $120 a year, I can watch any game I want. But would they be more inclined to pick and choose which games they wanted to see for $5? Let's say if I only watch 20 games because I don't have a lot of time, am I going to be more inclined to just pay $5 a pop whenever I want to watch a game? Let's say, okay, Pirates are playing the Cubs here, and they would have to do no blackouts because the blackout bullshit has to end if they want to go this route. But if I'm sitting there's a big game late in the season, Cardinals, Cubs, Pirates, whoever, it's going to be divisional. Would I pay $5 a pop? Yeah. Now, would they make the money up? I guess it would depend on how close these playoff races are. For people that wouldn't pay for that package, would they be more willing to pay $5 or so, maybe even less than that, to watch a game? I think they would, and I think they would make a ton of money. Matt, what are your thoughts?
I think the only way that I could see them justifying it is if they could make something special for it. So, for example, like looking at like the way that they did some of the college football playoffs, how they had like ESPN ran that coach's room that I spoke about where they were showing like the all 22 cut. If you're going to make me pay and then give me one of the boring, like, you know, where I'm going to have certain commentators that I can't stand, that's going to take away from that viewing experience, then I think it's not going to be worth the money. But if you can package it in some way where there's a camera angle, or you're getting quality commentators, and then not knocking all of them, but you can't charge a higher rate and then have, you know, the bottom of the barrel people either calling the game or commentating. You want to have something that's going to add a little bit extra to the games. So I think that doing that may be a way to make that more meaningful. So maybe, for example, you make it more team focused, where, like you were saying, with like the way they did March Madness with the alumni like aspect of it. If they were adding that to it, that may be worth it. And then being able to like either save it or have some kind of copy for an extended period of time so that you can go back and watch it. Yeah, it might be worth it. But a one shot, one and done, I don't know. Depends on the price.
I think they started to do that that I mentioned. Yeah, you're right. They did like the team focused thing. I think if you pay for it now, they give you the option, and what they do is they sync it up with the team broadcast. Mm-hmm. Now, would that be enough over the top? I think for the casual fan, it definitely would, because like you said, Matt, the annoying national announcers that are kind of trying to walk the line, but you know they're still biased, so they throw in little jabs, and it's just annoying, where you could just go all in on your team. Now, if you're not a fan of either team, then I guess you would kind of listen to the other. I don't know if they have a neutral broadcast. I'd have to look into it. But I guess you'd have to kind of pick and choose who you'd want to win, and then listen to the other side to kind of give you a rooting interest. But yeah, I would like to see more team stuff too, because they can't just do the same stream and throw the radio broadcast on top, because it doesn't feel as solid. But if they had interviews by like past players, and I think they should bring back a lot of like the alums that used to play for teams, and like maybe, I know Mark McGuire's coach, but like let's say you're watching the Cards one, it would be interesting if he's like breaking down players' swings and stuff. I know he coaches somewhere, but they could probably find a player from each team or two to do something similar to kind of give you that little bit extra. If you're paying, how about you teach us a little bit about the sport? Because the casual fans are the ones that are just going to watch it if it's on. They're not going to pay. So I would say most people that would pay are going to be a rooting interest. And we're going pretty long, so I'll wrap up my end. Anything else you guys want to add for baseball?
I'll say last night for a little bit, I was watching the St. Louis Brewers game, and kind of piggybacking on this concept, they were interviewing I was trying to think. I think it was Wainwright, maybe, that was like talking about his gardening and his farm, and like it was completely random, but I thought that it also tied in like a good bit with like the stuff that he was doing outside that might be something interesting to add from like that single team stream perspective, because it definitely showed like some of the personality of the player, and brought a little bit something extra to the game that wasn't interesting in the earlier part as the Brewers jumped up on them.
Yeah, that's cool. And I do like how they did. I've heard some conflicting arguments on this, but they were trying to mic up players while they were on the field. And I thought that brought like a little bit interesting perspective. So, you know, if you watch baseball games before, if a guy had a big home run and then the next guy struck out, you really didn't get to hear his perspective. So what they would do is they would throw a headset on as he took the field, and then they chatted with him in the inning. And then, like, the one guy, I forget who it was, there was a ball hit over his head. He's like, sorry, guys, I'm not going to catch this, or something like that. I'm paraphrasing. You can probably look it up if you search that on Google. And he had to run and get the ball, and then he continued the interview. So I think little things like that are kind of cool. And that's what kids need. They need connection to the players. That's what NBA does the best right now, because they don't have hats. They don't have helmets obstructing their face. It's not going to be anything where you're not going to see your favorite guy. I know basketball rests their guys, so good chance if you go see him, you're not going to see him play. But other than that, you got to kind of promote yourself, and that's what they need to do a better job of. But I don't want to kick on that. We'll have plenty of baseball this year. I'm going to swing into the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't have much for the Steelers, but the draft is coming up. So I figured we could just do a mock draft here. And, of course, I didn't give you guys a heads up because I wanted this to be off the cuff. But right now, Steelers, we'll just go through, focused on their first-round pick. Late in the first round. You guys have probably seen some mock drafts. I know some of the college guys. If we were going to go ahead and do the draft today, who would you want them to draft in the first round? Rick, I'll throw you under the bus because you haven't been here for a while.
I still don't see the main problem. I know people will say Shazier's injured. He's not playing this year. We need a linebacker. I still think you could go out and get Timmons, pay him roughly near the league minimum, and have him play and be salvageable on that part. I still think you need to go defensive back. A lot of your top guys are not showing it, are going to be gone already. I mean, if I had to take somebody at their pick, let's say I'm going to go with Jackson from Iowa. I'll take Jackson. Okay, he's a cornerback. He's good. He has good size. His speed's okay. He could play. He played Big Ten football where they do pass. Everybody passes now in Big Ten. It's not the 1940s Big Ten where we just do wing T, run up the middle. Okay, Joe Paul.
Easy.
Hey, but think about it. That used to be Wisconsin, Nebraska, Penn State, Iowa, Ohio State. That was what they did. They pounded it with a running back. Those days are gone. It's a passing league in the Big Ten. So I'm going to go with Jackson. He's faced some top talent. They need a corner. He'll probably be there if he doesn't go earlier, which means either Cincinnati grabs him or Minnesota may have a chance. But I think Minnesota will probably pass on him too. So, but I see a lot of teams going quarterback, and I still see the Steelers going late, second or third round. I don't believe the hype that they're going first round quarterback.
All right, I'm going to agree with you, Rick. I've said in weeks past they definitely need to go cornerback, and if they can get a guy that can bulk up, play safety, whatever down the line, that's fine. I was hoping that the Iowa guy would fall to them. Jeez, I can't even talk. Denzel Ward would be another one from Ohio State. Those are probably the top two cornerbacks in the draft right now, and I don't know if they'll fall that far. I have seen some mock drafts where people were saying that they're going to take Jair Alexander from Louisville, and he's around the 7th or 8th best cornerback in the draft, and I just don't see them drafting 7 cornerbacks ahead of them. So I'll throw another name out there that I like, Dante Jackson from LSU. He plays in the SEC, so he's going to be up against some of the top competition, just like as you would in the Big Ten, the ACC. You're going to have that. He's going to be used to facing them. The other one that might fall would be Carlton Davis, another SEC guy from Auburn. Same thing. You're going to be playing. He's a little bit bigger, so I just don't think he would fall as far. I think that he'll be picked right before the Steelers pick. He's 6'1", 206. Dante Jackson's 5'10", 170. He runs a 4.3 40, which is why I'm leaning towards him, because the Steelers need help with speed. What happened against Jacksonville? Dude, just pick and pop all day over the middle, whatever they were doing. Whatever they wanted to do, they were just checking down. get some extra speed on the Steelers defense. That's who I want to see them grab. Dante Jackson from LSU. And Matt, let's hear yours.
Oh, I'm going to go conservative. I think they'll probably go with USC Sam Darnold with the first overall pick.
Yeah. No Barkley.
No, he'll be gone. No, all kidding aside, there's a lot of directions Pittsburgh could go. I think running back could be a safe pick. I know that there's some different projections saying that the LSU running back could fall to them. I'm not crazy about him. To be honest, the guy that I mentioned him before that I think would be an excellent fit in Pittsburgh is Lamar Jackson. I mean, I'm really high on him because I think that he'll be around when Pittsburgh's drafting in the first round. I think when you comparatively go back and you look at some of the film that Mike Vick had when he was coming out of Virginia Tech, he didn't come out of a scheme maybe that was projecting to be the typical quarterback in the NFL. So, I think the comparisons are there that he could use his athleticism the way Ben scrambled around his earlier years. Mm-hmm. Plus, they're not drafting him in the first round. You're not saying come in and be the face of the franchise. We're saying come in, learn behind Roethlisberger, learn the offense, learn what it's like to be a professional quarterback. He's definitely going to be an upgrade over anything that they have currently on the roster. And I think giving him that time to adjust, if he's saying he's not playing any other positions, he's a quarterback only, then learn the offense from a seasoned vet. And when it is time, maybe that transition becomes a lot smoother, a la Aaron Rodgers taking over for Favre, or going a little bit further back when Steve McNair took over. I believe the quarterback the Oilers had was Cody Carlson, maybe. It was a journeyman quarterback that was starting the earlier part of the year and transitioned him later in. So I think that would be a good way for Pittsburgh to pick up a solid quarterback for the future, going that route.
Well, Matt, I don't know if they'd grab him first round, and I will tell you this. I think Lamar Jackson will be on my man Steve Spurrier's list for next year as he's looking for a quarterback for the Alliance of American Football. Because Lamar Jackson's people are going to be scared away from him. And that's who's going to excel in that league. Him, Johnny Manziel. These are quarterbacks that are going to be fighting for a spot in the Alliance of American Football. So, old ball coach or head ball coach, he'll be throwing some stuff out there,
Well, I think with Manziel, he's going to end up in Canada because he already has a contract with them that if an NFL team doesn't sign him, he has a 2-year deal in place to go to Canada. And I think that'll probably be where he goes to earn his stripes, and then showing that he can behave himself off the field may lure NFL teams back in. But I think he's going to have to go to Canada and prove that he can be a model citizen on and off the field.
Since we're talking about where Johnny Manziel can end up, I'm going to throw a weird one out here. Since we talked about another jabroni who can't play baseball like Tim Tebow, I'm going to talk about him playing for San Diego Padres. San Diego Padres have no reason to show up, pretty much, if you're a regular season ticket holder. He has a contract that says he can play minor league baseball for San Diego Padres. Why don't the Padres give him a shot? They need to fill seats just like the Mets do. Send him to the minors. He's like 5'4". He could walk a bunch and get on base and steal bases. I like this idea.
Wait, who has a contract in place? Which guy?
He has a Padres.
Who does?
Padres drafted him in 14, 13.
Jackson or Manziel?
They drafted Johnny Manziel. Look it up.
I was confused on who you're talking about.
Oh, I was making fun of Tim Tebow, and then I decided to talk about Johnny Manziel. I don't understand. I was in Cleveland this weekend. People still hate that guy's guts. I mean, I don't understand it. But here's the one thing I will say about the quarterbacks. I see them all going off the board quick. The Giants are drafting Browns, Jets, Broncos could still grab a quarterback. I mean, you have so many teams out there. Dolphins could be a quarterback. Bills could be a quarterback team. Even the Patriots could go out there and grab somebody.
But what year? What year was Cardinals. It that they?
what, 9 teams I just named there. There could be a quarterback drafted.
It felt like this was going to happen a few years ago, too. And didn't one guy fall all the way till like the end of the first round and he sat there and he was going to be one of the top 2 guys? They thought the top 2 teams are going to take a pick. What draft was that?
Do you mean Johnny Manziel when he fell out of almost out of the first round and Cleveland jumped back in to draft him?
Correct. And then the
Was
year
it his draft?
Roethlisberger was supposed to be drafted, he was supposed to go in the top 10, and he fell out of the top 10. So,
I can't remember. It happens every year, but there was one year where I felt like it was very quarterback heavy, and then instead everyone just started to pick cornerbacks or something crazy, and there were like no quarterbacks taken. Was it Aaron Rodgers? Was it that year? Was it all the way back
Aaron
then?
Rodgers sat until like pick 20-something when he was drafted.
Maybe that was the year, because they had a big deal about Aaron Rodgers and Alex Smith, yeah. And then I thought there were some other quarterbacks that were going to be in the mix. I can't remember. I'd have to look up the draft. If you're bored, because you'd have to hate your life to go back and watch old NFL drafts. You can look that up for me and send me a tweet, because I will not be doing that. Anything else you guys have for football?
Nope.
All right, we're going to get into the NHL playoffs now. And I've been debating if I should just add Pitt and Penn State as a topic under here for the Steel City update and to talk college, but I do have college spring games, college football at the end if we have enough time. But we'll see how we go. Right here, Penguins versus Flyers. The first thing I want to do before I'll get your guys' thoughts, what the hell, Columbus? First off, it looked like everything was going to be Columbus versus Pittsburgh. Columbus was on Twitter talking a lot of shit. They were going out saying that it's going to be a real rivalry. And then, was it Saturday, Friday? I forget which game, because I have a couple thoughts. I was watching the Penguins heavy this weekend, getting into playoff mode, and the Blue Jackets, they sat their guys. They sat most of their starters, and then they lose to, and I know they were playing the Predators, so it's not like they lost to a scrub team. But still, to go out and talk a lot of shit, it really felt like you were dodging the Penguins. And I don't blame you, because everyone's saying, why would you rather play the Capitals? Well, come on, the Capitals are like the Peyton Manning of the league right now. They can go ahead and win a few series possibly, but they really don't show up. So you have a better chance against them, let's be honest. I don't care what their seed is. You can be seeded high and lose in the first round of the playoffs every year. So, Penguins, I mean, definitely, they locked up home ice advantage. What was the game? I wanted to give a shout out. But they played Columbus. I think it was a game against Columbus. Maybe that's why I'm Columbus heavy. But was it? I forget what day of the week it was. But Penguins were down. Third period, they had to have an equalizer. I forget who even it was. I should have wrote this down. This is an awful intro to the series. But he fought through the legs of the defender, was able to kick it in to tie the game up before the Penguins went ahead and won that one to pretty much lock up home ice. And instead of playing them, which I thought would have been a great way, a lot of the Columbus games against Pittsburgh this year were one goal or less, or overtime, I mean. So you had a good series there, but instead, we're going up what seems to be the city of destiny, Philadelphia. I don't like it. I'd like to hear your guys' thoughts. Matt, we'll start with you. What do you think of the Penguins right now and their chances against the Flyers in this playoffs or whatever?
Well, I'll sound like some of our older relatives, and I'll say conspiracy theory, Philly's now the team of destiny. You got Villanova winning college basketball championships. You got the Eagles knocking off New England. The Sixers are making the playoffs for the first time in a gazillion years. Maybe the sports gods are finally smiling on Philadelphia. Maybe it truly is sunny in Philadelphia, and it's their time. I don't know. I know one thing's for sure. They have to continue greasing the pools in Philadelphia, and nobody's trying to light them on fire with that hydraulic fluid. So,
which I think was a great point. Don't let that skip over. People of Philadelphia, come on. I know some people are going to listen to this just because we're doing an intro on the series, but guys, they're greasing your pools. All you have to do is light them on fire, and you would have an awesome display. How dumb are you guys? It's most likely going to be a flammable substance. Rick, why are you laughing? Instead, they're
Don't
climbing
give
them.
people ideas.
They're climbing them.
It's hydraulic fluid. It's flammable. They're greasing the pools with it to keep people from climbing the pools. I'm surprised that some genius hasn't tried to light it on fire.
Dude, it's cold as shit. It was just snowing in Pennsylvania last week.
It snowed yesterday.
Yeah, it's still
this
snowing.
morning.
What better way to warm yourself up than to have a fire, Rick? And the cops are doing a civic duty. They're greasing up the pools. They're letting it happen.
Because they can't control the people of Philadelphia. That's the problem.
Let freedom ring.
And
Let freedom ring.
You don't give crazy people ideas. I mean, it's like we give Donald Trump Twitter. It's like giving the people of Philadelphia greased poles. We don't need to tell them what to do with it. Like, we should just let them try to knock it down, like Rampage style, not light it on fire. And make
Rampage.
it
Don't even get me started on Rampage, dude. What
Talk about the
crock of
1980s
shit.
video game, not about the terrible movie with The Rock. That's just going to be awful. That's going to be Tooth Fairy Part 2. It's going to be terrible. Don't send your kids. Save your money. Wait till it hits Redbox.
But they're spending so much on commercials for it. I feel like no matter what game I watch, it's like any sports game. If you like sports, you're going to like a Rampage movie based on an old arcade game starring The Rock, Dwayne Johnson. Bad. Awful. You're right. Philly, they should do something. I mean, that city, they spent a ton of money on a bell that only rang once and then cracked. It cracked that first hit. And then they didn't know what to do with it, so it just hangs there. Dumb.
It's actually not hanging there. It's in like a glass case now outside the door.
Rick, they also had a statue for a fake boxer.
Yeah, that's still there. That's still in the same exact place it's been for years.
Whenever you're not good at sports, Rick, that's what you have to do. You invent guys that win championships for your city, and then you put a statue up.
Guess what? They're pretty soon. if they win the cup, they may be a city of champions.
This is the state of champions. Penguins, Penn State basketball, Villanova, Eagles. I mean, Pennsylvania just has a state of champions. It's just
Penn State basketball.
Philadelphia.
That was at NIT.
Yes, he
What
did.
NIT?
He threw
NIT. I don't see your teams winning the NIT.
That's because we're in the
because
Final
we were busy
Four.
playing in the actual.
Yeah.
Is it better to get bounced in the first round or go win the NIT championship?
Yeah, but our teams played in like the Elite Eight or one of those rounds.
Elite Eight.
Yeah, Rick, it's not the first round.
Well, no, Penn State would have been bounced in the first round. They didn't have their sixth man. He was injured all year or something. So
Who was that?
You know what? They got that Life Champions Award. They can hang the banner.
Oh, wait until the NCAA championship comes around. The points and everything. Oh, yeah.
Badminton.
Fencing.
Girls curling.
Fencing.
Wait, you talking about the Director's Cup?
Wrestling. What?
You talking about the Director's Cup points?
Oh, yeah. We're going to win all the weird sports. That's what happens with Penn State. Like fencing.
Yeah, whatever you need to do. You guys, you and Stanford, you guys can have that equestrian championship. Two teams. I want to look at those numbers, and I should do that for Southbound Sports. Crunch the numbers and see how many teams or schools are getting points for sports that only have like 10 members that compete. And then you should just divide those points by how many members actually play. Because some sports have like 300 teams and some have like 16. So it's not fair. So I'm going to take a look at that. I'm going to dig into that, Rick. These weird championship banners that Penn State's been hanging up. I need to look at the numbers. So let's get back into the hockey. I know we went off a little bit there, but with Philadelphia, I actually think this plays better for the Penguins. And I don't know if a lot of other people feel that way, but I feel like the Penguins, the Flyers, the only thing the Flyers have on the Penguins is destiny. Now, one thing that did hit me a little bit wrong with the Penguins. What game was it? Was it Saturday where they had the chance to clinch home ice or whatever? They didn't play Matt Murray. Why? I think I put that out on Twitter. I don't know if I got any responses. I haven't. I have a couple alerts, but I didn't check my thing yet. Been a busy weekend, but I'm just wondering, why would you do that? Is it because you want them to scout both goalies? Why not ride your number one guy? You know this is on the line. Why go with a backup? He did. He got his first shot out. I think it was it 4-0 or something? So he played well. And to me, you're doing that right before the playoffs. I really hope it doesn't mess with the locker room. And I don't think hockey has as many locker rooms issues as other sports for some reason. It just feels like most players are on the same plane, and you don't hear about that like you do in football, like you do in basketball. I mean, baseball even to some extent, but hockey and I guess baseball generally, you don't have those issues, really, unless it's like one hothead guy like Puig rubbing off signs or whatever. So I don't know if that will be an issue, but that's the one thing that I looked at, and it just threw me. Why have Murray on the bench? Do they not have confidence in him? Is he not back 100%? That worries me for this series. Other than that, I think the Penguins, up and down, have the better roster. What are your guys' thoughts?
I would agree they have the better roster overall, and I look at the goalie play. I think Murray is definitely better than Brian Elliott, who probably will start. And this is the thing, probably will start. You don't know who's going with Philadelphia. Philadelphia has been inconsistent ever finding a goalie for years. That's been their problem for years. And I don't understand that because their general manager is Ron Hextall, who's a living legend in Philadelphia and a legendary goalie. He was a very good goalie during his time frame, either with Philadelphia or with the Kings when he was there. So I don't understand how they can never find a goalie. See, and I think that's one thing that helps out the Penguins is they have the solid goalie. And I will say this, Penguins are very consistent on what they do. They don't really break the mold. So my thinking is why they had Murray play on Thursday, April 8th. He played what would have been the Columbus.
Yeah.
Now, they're always consistent they never do back-to-backs, not unless it's the playoffs. So that's my theory of why they played the backup on Friday, the 6th. And again, I think it was a home and away. The away game was in Columbus. The home game was in Ottawa. So they had two different scenarios and everything. So that's what I would say because they're very consistent that way. They never try to do back-to-backs, not unless it's playoffs. So, but I don't like Philadelphia's goaltending. I don't think Philadelphia fans even like their goaltending. Don't know why you can't find a goaltender. I mean, there are goaltenders out there. I think you got to draft right, and you also got to scout right, and you got to make a trade. And I know some of the teams like Pittsburgh would never trade a goalie to Philadelphia because you may see him in the playoffs. That's why Fleury went to L.A. or Las Vegas. Las Vegas. So,
well, Rick, before I let Matt talk here, I do have one thing to add. When you said about goalies, Philadelphia, people were saying they just couldn't find their own quarterback when Wentz went down, and look what happened. They had a guy step up, and maybe that destiny thing is real.
If you believe Brian Elliott's a good starting goalie, you may be on an island by yourself, Tom Hanks, because he's the occasional starter, the backup goalie, not the number one, not the best. I don't know. But,
Rick, people were saying the same exact thing about Foles.
Ottawa got rid of him, and St. Louis got rid of him.
People were saying the same thing about Foles. Rams got rid of him. Whoever else he was played with, they got Eagles number one time got rid of him. Can't count him out if it's a city of destiny. But don't worry, because
go ahead and sell that to Disney. Go trademark it and sell it to Disney, because I don't see it happening.
Don't worry.
Sorry.
Pittsburgh's number one in scoring on power plays, and they're fourth overall in goals, and that's what wins games.
And they're going to get back Derek Burchard here, probably during this year.
Studded rosters, fast guys that are out there having fun, and that Penguins team looked like it was having fun on Thursday and Friday. So, Matt, what are your thoughts?
The one thing that really stands out to me is the playoffs are a different animal, and I think the last couple of years going up against Washington and going up against Columbus, they're physical, but they're not physical on an annoying level like Philly is. Philly prides themselves on getting under Pittsburgh's skin, and they do a really good job of it. When you look at the last time that they played the playoffs back in 2012, Pittsburgh got bounced. And the part of the reason they got bounced is because Giroux got in their heads, and he's second in scoring right now. And I think that that's something to keep an eye on throughout this series, is that, with both of these teams, will Pittsburgh's speed be able to neutralize the aggressiveness and, for lack of a better wording, the dickheadedness of Philly? Because they're gonna be aggressive. They're gonna tie up Crosby. They're gonna make Malkin consistently beat him, and he's got to show that he can do it.
All right. Anything else you guys want to add? I'm excited. I know Philly is going to be hard hitting, and it should make for a fun series. I just hope none of our guys get hurt.
The one other thing with all this that I thought was interesting, looking at some of these games, is I think in some ways, regardless of which team ends up winning, it helps that this first round game is being played Pennsylvania to Pennsylvania. So even from a logistical traveling standpoint, they're home, and then it's not like they're having to go, cross country or anything like that between games. So I think from a resting standpoint, where we've talked before about how the Penguins going year in and year out the last couple of years with their deep Stanley Cup runs, maybe this is the first round that may help them if they can get through Philly to push through for a deeper playoff run, because they're not having to extensively travel, back-to-back nights and different things all over the place. They can relatively stay cross-state and get there quickly in time for some of these games.
That's a good point. It will bode well for the next round, keeping guys hopefully fresh and not as worn out travel-wise. But that's it for our Pittsburgh stuff. Very Pittsburgh-heavy show. Going to get into, just touch on college football here. I wanted to mention Michigan will have their spring game this Saturday, so check that out. It's going to be a doozy. And if you saw Michigan State, they had no one show up at their spring game. I think you could count them, maybe 300 tops. I'll put that out there. Awful attendance for spring game. So hopefully Michigan can have a better showing than what Michigan State had. In news for Penn State, I don't know if they had their spring game, but they had the biggest moment. Jeff would kill me if I didn't mention this. The Paterno movie came out Sunday night. I heard it was a killer movie. So if you are a Penn State fan, definitely check that out. Rick, did you watch that? Did you cue that up?
I don't have HBO, so I did not watch that. So I'll probably try to catch something I can find online about it. I will try to watch it. I know one thing I've heard consistently is they made Paterno seem like he was incompetent. I don't know. I mean,
Rick, do you think he
was? How
was?
they got the I don't know. Here's the one thing. It didn't seem like Paterno was ever in charge during those last years. It seemed like the offense coordinator and defense coordinator, I think it was Galen Head and then Bradley, were pretty much running the show when it was game day. So, I mean, I don't know. I believe it and I don't believe it. I don't know where they got all their information and everything from. But I don't know. I would like to see it and watch it. It's not De Niro. Who played him? Al Pacino. Al Pacino looks a lot like Joe Paterno, though, in the movie. So
That sucks for him.
See. Yeah, the looks. They just look very similar. What? You take a picture of Joe Paterno and you take Al Pacino playing Joe Paterno. They look very similar.
Rick, I said that sucks for him.
Well, he was getting in the character. Isn't that what they call it in acting? Getting in the character. So,
I don't know.
I would like to see it and watch it. Wait and see. I know Penn State alumni football players are totally trashing it. The ones that have watched it, like Franco Harris,
I'm
John
so
Carter.
surprised. Oh, good, John Carter. Yeah, is he still around? I never would have known.
He actually makes more money. He runs some weird company, like an investment firm in Florida. And if you follow his Instagram, all he does is take pictures partying. Must be nice.
So just like college for him.
Hopefully it's not on his
pretty
bad
much like
knee.
Penn State, yeah.
Well, I do want to do a watch party for this. I thought about it. It doesn't make sense to do it right now, but possibly in the fall we'll try to get something going on Southbound Sports where we do like a live tweeting thing, and we live tweet the Paterno movie. Maybe the night before they play Michigan or Ohio State. We'll wait to see how the season shakes out, but I definitely want to save it for football season because a lot of Penn Staters, like, they're going to try to pretend this movie's not out there, and it will be a good way to get some conversation started. So that's something. Don't let me forget that. If you hear this, if you're still listening, make sure you hit me up in the fall. Do some live event for the Paterno movie because I definitely want to do that, get some conversation started outside. Because I know they have a lot of guys like Jay Paterno, which I was a little worried that he might be bankrolling this film because Matt posed a good question this weekend when I brought it up to him. Who writes this movie? Matt, you want to go ahead and give your thoughts on that?
It just, to me, the whole thing is bizarre. It's a terrible thing that happened, and it's a terrible black eye to Penn State. Why in God's name would possess someone to go, you know what, let's make a movie about it? Like, it's something that we don't want to see happen. I think every college, everything is working on or has some form of protective measures to make sure that kind of stuff does not happen. I mean, and I think it's even been amplified even more by the Nassar trials and the things that were going on with that. But it completely just struck me as what kind of person says this is the kind of thing that would make for a great movie, and trying to come up with like the details and the storyline. Like, it has to have some kind of like sadist type person to think, yeah, this is exactly what I want to portray.
Plus the actors too. It's like you're going to be in a movie about, let's be honest, child rape. So like, why? It just doesn't make sense that this would be out there, but it is out there.
Oh, yeah, sign me up. Yeah.
Perfect.
No sense whatsoever.
Because who would want to be typecast in a position like that? I don't think there'd be a lot of roles that make you in that position. So,
well, I think for someone like Pacino, it's an ideal role because his career is not going to hinge on the success or failure of that movie. And that was probably the only way that they were going to get something like that off the ground, because you take the risk of doing that and you pretty much commit career suicide. Like, it better be like the greatest movie of all time, or else you're never getting another job ever.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to end with that. I don't really have, and I guess we didn't really talk about some spring games, but we'll be getting into that because we have the draft coming up. And the rest of the spring games are going to happen, I think, this weekend. I know West Virginia's got, I think it was snowed out, and I want to say that they rescheduled theirs for the 14th. I hope I'm right. NC State had theirs, but I was traveling this weekend, so I missed it. I went to there. I covered them last year for Southbound Sports, but I'll be watching some film, and I'll definitely bring this topic back next week. I don't think, I guess I should talk about the Frozen Four. Michigan ended up losing at the last-second goal to Notre Dame, and Minnesota Duluth beat Ohio State on Thursday. And then Minnesota Duluth beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame just couldn't keep up with their speed to win the national championship, just because we've been talking about some Big Ten stuff. And like I said, I'm debating if I should add that as a topic to the Steel City update, just because Pitt and Penn State. But we'll see. We'll play it out next couple weeks, see how the show goes. But that's it for me. We'll start with you, Matt. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, Florida State spring games this weekend. They're doing their throwback to the 90s. Got Vanilla Ice, Salt and Pepper down there for the post-game show. And also to celebrate the signing of 5-star quarterback recruit Sam Howell from down in your neck of the woods, North Carolina, committed recently. So it's great to see the first commit of the new class for Willie Taggart, locked in quarterback.
All right, like I said, if you want to watch some real football, Michigan also has theirs on Saturday, so you don't have to watch that Florida State shit show. Rick, what do you got?
Second place champions for life. When you even smell the Big Ten championship game, come call me.
Hey Matt, when your stadium holds over 100,000, let me know. People care.
Yeah, you bring it.
They know where real football is.
I think it comes with a free bowl of soup too.
No, it's 2 Cokes, and that's when Toys R Us genius Dave Brandon was our AD. Rick.
And look at how low he ran Toys R Us. Right into the ground.
I know, that's why I threw that in there. Toys R Us liquidated. They had the worst sales, too. If you go to Toys R Us, it was like, we're going out of business. We have to sell everything 10% off. 10% off. Jesus Christ. It was already cheaper on Amazon. All right. Go ahead, Rick.
I don't even know where to go with this. Also in spring training, I did tell Matt Davidson to have a good season. He had 2 home runs on opening day. Has fell apart since then. Robert Ozuna tonight has a total of 100 saves. Youngest player in the history of Major League Baseball to do that. So if he continues on that, possible continuation for career to come. I mean, those are some of the other things. And I don't know if you saw the story, guys, of like the 38-year-old guy who was sitting in the box who got called to play Chicago because of injuries.
Oh, yeah, I did see that.
So that was actually a good story. That has happened numerous times. I know media picked up on him for some unknown reason, but there's been other times where that's happened. Vancouver had that happen, I think, in 2009 that happened to him. It was a former player in the ECHL, the East Coast Hockey League AA. He was actually sitting in the stands eating nachos. They had to go tell him, go put the stuff on, you're going in. I know the question's always, who's the Penguins? It's actually Dana Heinze, but they'll never announce it. He actually played minor league hockey as well, but he's their equipment manager, so I know they'll never say it, but it's actually him who's actually doing it. Also, I will say as well, Mookie Betts was the guy who they were talking to, Richie, who was the guy who's like, I'm not catching this ball. And that was in spring training, but it was Mookie Betts, so we'll say that too. So, but those are pretty much my final topics. Definitely recommend going to the Cleveland Indian Stadium if you've never been there. It's actually a nice stadium. Just at that one with Mrs. Rick, so it was good times. So Cleveland Browns Stadium, never go to. It's nonstop windy there. Don't ever go.
Cleveland what?
The Cleveland Browns Stadium. Never go to it. It's really windy.
Did you get a tour there?
I kind of just stood outside of it when we were freezing to death.
Did you ask them where they had the Browns parade?
Oh, yeah, I stood right where the Browns parade was, and I felt like that's what significantly they needed that, because only Hugh Jackson can keep a job where you only win 1 game every 2 years. I could do that, I think. I have a great Madden career.
Well, Rick, I'm a little heartbroken that you think the Browns parade is something cool, but you don't think Philadelphians...
They raise money for charity.
You don't think Philadelphians should light their pools on fire?
What?
You don't think Philadelphians should light their pools on fire? That's way cooler than a Browns parade.
Public damage and money. The Cleveland parade raised money for food banks in Cleveland. That's a good topic. I mean, that's
what about the jerseys they burnt?
Oh, that's like that. The Cleveland people burning the LeBron James jerseys, then wearing it again and clapping for him. Like, thanks for coming home, buddy. Yeah, stupid. That just shows you Cleveland fans right there, sports fans. No idea sometimes. You're Cleveland. You're going to blow it. Your first-round pick's probably going to be Sam Darnold, and he'll probably be passing to random linebackers, a part of the Steelers' defense. He'll probably have more completed passes to the sidelines to, like, Steeler guys that are just hanging around, to Ben Roethlisberger than actual wide receivers.
And I'm going to end the show on that. I hope they draft Sam Darnold. Let's go ahead. End the show. Follow us on Twitter, S-Bound Sports, Facebook and Instagram, Southbound Sports. Tell your friends. Make sure they subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.